Hello, my name is Steve Kime. I'm the Director of Marketing and Public Relations for the City of Enid. One of my responsibilities is to serve as communication liaison between the city administration offices and to you, the citizens of Enid. During the past couple of weeks, the citizens of Enid and individuals in surrounding communities faced some challenging times with the recent snowstorm, electrical outages, and diminished water flow. Oftentimes, storms such as the one we experienced recently impact our infrastructure. Visiting with me today to talk infrastructure is the Director of Public Works, Mr. Jim McClain. Well, again, thank you for joining us today. We are approximately 45 miles west of Enid, and right behind us is water well number 31. I guess that's the official title of it. And it took quite adventure to get here. Sometimes I felt like Jack Hanna, you know, of all those adventures he has over Africa. Well, it up and down the hills and through some narrow area west, 40-some miles west of Enid, we're at a water well. And our program today, we just really wanted to talk about and try to provide information to citizens of Enid of really all that it takes to get water to that bathtub or to that sink that we have at home. Well, joining with me today is Jim McClain, and Jim is the Director of Public Works. He's a wealth of information. He got us here. Hopefully he'll get us out of here. But first off, Jim, thank you for being here. I know that you have just a hectic schedule because public works encompasses so much. But just real quick, can you just tell us in just a brief overview, public works is more than just a water line?
It is. It's about going in the production area. This is the production area starting at the wells. That transfers into collection lines, transfers into transmission lines, and then the transmission lines runs to Enid. It goes to two different pump stations. We have one for the east side and one for the west side. So, and there's some interaction, can be some interaction between here and there also. So it's quite a complicated process to do what we do this many miles away.
And you're just focusing on water. Last week when we talked, we had National Pothole Fix It Week or whatever. So tell us a little bit about that effort.
Well, we try to once a year pull public works together. We've got about 160 of us, and we spend about 4 to 5 days fixing potholes totally, including the supervisors, including the secretaries or anybody else. Whoever's out there is going to fill potholes. So we filled about 6,776 potholes in the last 4 days of last week. We'll traditionally fill around 8,500 potholes a year. So this last storm, as much as that was going on with the wetness of the snow and everything, we'll have a few more potholes this year, but we'll get most all of them taken care of sometime in the next 30 days.
Well, my short time with the City of Enid, I realize how critical and valuable the Public Works Department is. All the departments have their key roles and they're very supportive, but Public Works is definitely one of the top of the list. Well, Jim, if you will, here we are at pump number 31 of around 31 wells in the Cleo Springs area west of Enid. To me, it's amazing that from the water that's here, it's pumped down a pipeline to this collection station. You might correct me on the terminology, but then it's sent 40-some miles east to Enid. That's just incredible. So I want our listeners to really grasp the challenge that it takes to get water from here to our bathtub. Take us back to the February 25th. I think they called it the storm Rocky. Rocky comes off the Rockies and it's coming through northwestern Oklahoma, and it seemed like the storm just kind of stayed out in Woodward and western Oklahoma. Then it gradually reached the Enid area, but it was kind of nighttime time it got to Enid. In the afternoon of the 25th, you knew something was going on, and what was that?
We did, because we have communications with our wells out here and our pump stations, and at about 2:30 the power went off. It's like somebody coming up and pulling that lever down, and that's where it was at. We were dead, period, from OG&E lines and alfalfa electric lines, and we knew then that we were going to have to do something. A few years ago, contracts were put in place with some people out of Dallas and some people out of Houston that if we ever need generators again, we call and they start shipping them immediately. So we went ahead and made the call at that time to start generators our way. And unfortunately, that was a good thing to do, because by having all the power out and that storm you're talking about just kind of swirling over west of Enid, we got about 17 plus inches of snow, wet snow, blowing snow, freezing temperatures, and lines and poles started snapping. So we were able to survive that particular scenario that goes on and keep water flowing in Enid.
So it's 2:30 in the afternoon, you're in your office there at Enid. You know it's been blowing snow sideways most of the day, but the majority of the heavy snow and the wind and just really all the damage is west of the community. Yes. You make the call to get the generators, but what happened to our infrastructure right then? You've noticed there's power out at Cleo Springs, so what is impacting water flow and things like this?
Well, we had some storage available. Not as much as we'd like to have, but we had about 12 million gallons stored. Our water superintendent got together with him and our technical service man, Bill Ho. Bruce Boyd is our water superintendent, and we had a short discussion. So that's when the generators were ordered. That's when the decision was made to start turning the pressure down on the pumping, because that will save water when you do that. Less water is pumped when the pressure is down lower. It was an effort to conserve some of the water, because our citizens really didn't know at that time that we were out of water, because we were still pumping full blast in town. So they still had all the pressures in the water that they were using. But when that water starts going down, they know something's wrong when that happens. Okay.
It's hard to imagine. You know, it's a bright, sunshiny day, and that's why we have our glasses on. And you look at the road that we came in, very, very hilly and a lot of sand. It's hard to imagine 20-some inches of snow, I guess up to your knee, power lines broken. Can you just kind of describe what OG&E and the Alfalfa Rural Electric, I think that's who they are called, what did they face? I mean, this looks, well, we can walk around this, no big deal today. Well, add a couple inches of snow up to your knees and cold weather, what all did they face to repair this?
Well, OG&E, Alfalfa Electric, and ourselves, all three of us faced the deal that we had to be pulling trucks in and out with dozers. You can't get back to some of these wells without a dozer coming in with a snowstorm like that, and you get 17 inches of snow, you're going to have some pretty serious drifts. This is a wet snow too. Made a lot of difference, because every snowstorm is different, and so you have to approach it in that manner. But in the well fields, when the lines snap, you better have dozers on the way. And fortunately we have a couple of dozers in town we bring out to it, along with some other heavy equipment. So we brought trucks, dozers. We were on top of it pretty quick. But still, it took a lot of effort from our folks, and then OG&E too came around later, as well as Alfalfa Electric. We had to kind of bust the area out a little bit first before anything could happen.
You know, as a citizen of Enid, I think I joined so many other people that you had to put on your little patience cap just a little bit to be patient with OG&E to get power to your home or to your business. But I had a great appreciation for the effort that they went to as we came out this morning to see how difficult it is to actually get to water well number 31. It's really incredible. So when you know that they're having difficulty getting to the well site, and then for us to get to the well site today, it really raises the awareness. It's not walking down the sidewalk and flipping a switch and we get the power back.
That's right. You know, if you were here on the day that happened, and if you were out here with any of the public information, it would be a total nightmare.
We'd probably still be there.
Yeah, it would be total chaos, because it's just hard to imagine, as you've said, the amount of bad areas we've got these in anyway is to get to when the weather is good. But when the weather is like that, it's just almost impossible to get here.
Jim, can you tell us a little bit? There is, I think, another well site is it Ringwood? Is that correct?
That is one of the other fields, yes.
And then besides Cleo Springs, then there's another one.
There's an Ames well
okay.
field.
Well, tell us a little bit here about the Cleo Springs area. 30-some wells. When did it first develop? And
well, it was earlier than the 230. It was basically the part of that night when it blew in, because it stalled out over in this area before it ever even got to Enid, really. So it was going on, but we had no indication at that time. You know, when you're sitting there in Enid and you don't have a lot of snow on the ground, and you're predicting 12 inches of snow or 16, and you don't see much snow out there, you don't even think about it. You don't make the connection. Well, we started making the connections when it started stalling. Because when it starts stalling, and any snow you get in March and springtime, close to spring, it's going to be wet traditionally. And if the temperatures go down, and so we were in contact with Mike Hollingsberg, our emergency manager too, about weather related, about the temperatures and stuff that's going on, we know that we're fixing to get into it. So we get everything kind of lined up and ready to go and prepared, and then when we know, that's when we make the calls and we get people rolling over here.
Okay, let's leave the subject of the storm for just a little bit, and let's just talk about Cleo Springs and this particular well, and we'll look inside this well in just a few moments. But this well fill area was established, was it the 80s? Or
That's
can
correct.
you take us back and
That's correct.
how that all came about?
Years and years ago, the city had experienced some water problems, and so the people got together and voted a bond issue to put in another well fill to enhance Enid to be able to survive for years to come, and they did that. In this particular area here, this is what we call the sweetest area in the Cleo Springs field. The better water, the amount of water is right in the area that we're walking in right now. We're right on top of the Cimarron Terrace aquifer.
And that leads me into my next question about the aquifer. Can you kind of describe it for someone who just a real novice about water, and maybe even wells? I remember I was interviewed on the Weather Channel out of Atlanta, Georgia during that storm, and just off camera, the gentleman really didn't grasp wells. I mean, he was thinking of, you got water out of the lake, and it was just foreign to them. So can you kind of educate us a little bit about the well system? I don't know how deep this one is, but it's going down into that aquifer. Can you kind of tell us how that all works and ties together?
It does. The well depths usually are around 40, 45 foot deep. Okay. And the sand goes down so far and it hits shell, so you've got to capture that water between the sand and the shell. This is a real shallow aquifer, and if you remember when you were growing up like a kid and you had a science class and you looked at those little ant farms, well, this aquifer is kind of like that. It has tentacles going everywhere, and you draw from those tentacles. Even though it's a shallow area in that well, it draws from X number of feet from that. So it's shallow, and again, because it's shallow and because it's kind of the arid country west of I-35, it's slow to recharge. It's more of a local recharge, but it takes quite a while. If it rains today, 3 inches, the fruits of that rain won't show up for 7 months. So the recharge of the aquifers are a little slow sometimes.
So this particular aquifer, maybe in layman's terms, it's a cave underground full of water. Would that be safe to say? Something like that?
Absolutely, a real shallow cave too, because they're shallow, and like I said, they just go out like the tentacles of an ant farm.
Well, then can you give us kind of the dimensions of that? How wide this particular one, how wide and how long?
It's difficult to do that because they are shallow. It is a small aquifer. It's not like the Simpson Arbuckle aquifer down south in southern Oklahoma. So it's just a totally different aquifer to do that. They really can't do that. If I had a magic crystal ball, maybe I could say, well, it's 30 foot deep or whatever. And that changes on the amount of water and the amount of time of the year. And then, of course, the drought is a big factor in the water levels and tables in this too. So we measure those once a month. We check them, and the drought's the big factor.
We talked a little bit about your first step of action during the storm was making that phone call in regard to the generators. Yes. So the well is out, and here's the power pole. So just for our viewers to know, that generator would actually just set right by this power pole?
As close to that power pole as we could possibly get it, absolutely. And then we have an interchange box on the bottom we can hook up to and get that well in operation power-wise.
How did you identify, of the 30-some wells in this well field, and then you have Ames and the other fields, how did you identify, okay, this generator is going to go here or there?
Most of the wells have a pretty standard size that we can use. So if we've got a 45 kW, it'll run most any of our wells itself. Not the well pump station, but the wells. We moved in a little different direction right here than this one first because this is serviced by OG&E. They're a little quicker than Alfalfa Electric is. So we got to the Alfalfa Electric fields and had to do some opening up because they couldn't even get out here until we did. So we concentrated all of our generators over there. We knew this was going to be coming back on it's quicker than anything else that's going on. So we moved those generators to that area. So this one here was one of the few last ones to get it turned on.
Let's take a little break from the conversation of the storm, and let's look inside this water well and see how all this works. Welcome back. We've added another guest to our program today, and alongside me is Bruce Boyd with the City of Enid Public Works Department. Bruce, thanks for joining us here this afternoon on this brisk day. And here we are at water well number 31. Before we talk about the well and a little bit of the storm. Just tell us a little bit about your role. As we came out this afternoon driving 40-some miles, it seemed like you had a wealth of information about the history of water wells. So specifically your role at Enid.
I'm a water production supervisor. Been in the water department for 28 years. So yeah.
Is that just enough amount of time to pick up a few things?
Yes,
in 28
yes
years?
it is. Yes, it is. I remember when this well field was brand new. This well was drilled in 1983 and was put online in 1984 and runs most of the time, especially during the summer. We rely on these wells all summer. In the wintertime, we have, some downtime. We rotate wells off and on so that one well isn't doing all the work year round.
You were sharing with me as we came out today is that you have the capability in your office 40-some miles away in Enid to turn this well on and off, see what it's doing, know if electricity is happening, and that happens to all your particular wells. Let's go to that storm on February 25th, and again, it had been snowing most of the day out west of Enid, and probably been snowing here most of the day. But in Enid, it wasn't near as severe. But in this particular area, the storm is really hitting on February 25th. So did you notice as well, by monitoring everything, 2:30 in the afternoon, that something wasn't right because electricity was going? Or did you anticipate this was going to happen?
We were looking for it. Anytime a winter storm comes in, we fill all our tanks maximum capacity. And Amarillo was getting hit hard, and then it was moving into the western edge of Oklahoma, and then they were talking Fairview, and Alva was getting so much snow. And we were watching, and the power went off out here in the Cleo well field first, and then it moved on to the Ringwood well field, and then the Ames well field, so you could just see it slowly creeping towards Enid.
I did several interviews with Oklahoma City media, and they were talking about the storm. And in Oklahoma City, they kept waiting for the storm to get to Oklahoma City. And I'm talking to them from Enid, or they sent crews up, and they were surprised that the further west that they were getting from Oklahoma City, the worse the storm had gotten. Because, excuse me, they were waiting all day long for this, massive storm to come to Oklahoma City, and it never did. It just kind of hung out from Enid and west. One thing that I shared with the media was the proactive approach that the Public Works Department would take. And you were talking about making sure that the tanks were full and things of this nature. You're watching this storm come to the Enid area. What are some proactive steps that you do with that storm or any other storm?
Well, all our people know they're on call.
Okay.
So a lot of them prep, have their food and everything. Because a lot of times when something happens like this, you'll work 18, 20 hours a day and go home, sleep 4 or 5 hours, and go back to work, do it again.
So it's a real challenging time.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this 1980s. I had a 1967 Chevy one time, one of my first. No, it was a 60 Chevy, my first car, and it kind of looked rusted up, kind of like this. But this is an 80s model well, if you will. Tell us a little bit about this.
These wells were originally line shaft turbine, and the motor would set up here, and it would have a shaft running clear to the bottom of the well to the pump. But as those have gone bad, we've converted over to a submersible pump where the pump and motor are bolted together, and they're both at the bottom of the well. Well, instead of spending money on a new discharge head, we just pull these heads, take them into the shop, do a little conversion on them, and then we reuse the old head. It saves a lot of money. These discharge heads are about $1,500 a piece, so we just rebuild them and reuse them. They're not real pretty, but they do the job.
They get water to the bathtub 40-some miles away.
That's right.
We're in a well house area. It's a cinder block enclosed area. It's probably 6 to 8 feet wide and maybe another 10 or 12 feet. So it's not really huge, but again, it's an area that protects this area. And understand that we're really out in the, I guess I can use the word sticks. I mean, we're out in the country and we're out in the sticks. We've noticed some coyotes prints, and We know that probably this looks like a nice home for rattlesnakes. What other, as you've been out here through the years, what other type of surprises have you seen?
We've actually had rattlesnakes curled up around this discharge head. It's cool, and when it's 100 degrees outside, they're looking for a place to cool off.
So remind me not to come out here in the summertime.
Yeah. We have to be careful with, you know, fiddleback spiders, black widow spiders, rattlesnakes. The rest of the wildlife really won't bother you. A skunk maybe, but my guys, it's not like working in town. It's 100 degrees out here and it's blow sand, and there's not a restaurant or a place to get a drink of water. You have to bring it with you. So you have to be prepared to come out here and face the elements and provide for yourself, you know.
Well, Bruce, thank you for joining us today. It's very enlightening. Appreciate the work that you've done, what you say, 28 years with the City of Enid. Thank you for what you do behind the scenes. You know, again, it's real easy just to get up in the morning or at any time and walk to the sink and just turn that spigot on and there's the water. But when you get closer to the elements out here, realizing big hole in the ground and it's going to travel 40-some miles to get to your house, that's a lot of effort, and we appreciate what you do on behalf of our citizens. And thank you for joining us today.
All righty, thank you.
Welcome back to our program, and thank you for staying with us today. It's been a very educational experience for me. We're standing in Major County.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Do we know where we're at, Jim?
Yes, we do.
We're in Major County, and we're about 45 miles west of Enid. And we just left water well site number 31. And just to let the citizens of Enid know of the proactive approach that's taking place of new water wells that are being drilled. Again, alongside is Jim McClain, Public Works Director. And Jim, we're at a new site that is being built. Maybe this is number 32, I'm not sure. But we're about a mile away from the well site of 31. Tell us briefly how we determined that, okay, here's another site for a new well.
Well, we do a lot of testing. We do test wells, and if the test well proves out to be a good producer, then that's when we'll put a well, go ahead and drill for a well at that time. This one did. We've got a contractor in process of building a new well house here. We've already put in the collection lines that run back up to the pump station up there. So when they get this done, it'll just be a matter of time, probably 6 weeks, this well here will be online.
Can you tell us a little bit about the overall effort of the number of wells that are drilled each year? Is it just 5 wells a year, or does each year vary? How does that work?
It'll vary depending on the revenue that comes in.
Okay.
We've got a couple more wells fixed to be drilled, and then how fast we can get the test wells drilled to see whether the locations that we're looking at are going to produce or not. That takes time. So it takes several months to go through and do all the testing before you even get started drilling a real actual well to pump into town.
It's important for our viewers to just kind of realize that this is a new well that's drilled and they're building the well house. But in a matter of months, water from this well will make it all the way to Enid. So that's really pretty incredible how this whole system works.
It really is. There's a collection line set up, and certainly we can take advantage of any time we can put a well close to that line. It speeds the process.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for staying with us. We're at our final destination, or our final stop here today, and it's at the Cleo Springs pump station. Not pump station number 1, but it is the pump station for Cleo Springs. A total of 30-some wells are pumping water to this area that's behind me. To my immediate left is a 30-inch pipeline. It looks rather huge to me, but then that leaves this area here and goes over to the 412 highway. Joining me again is Bruce Boyd. Bruce has a special connection to this building because I think, you know, in your 28-year tenure, you had lunch out here or something?
I actually built this place.
You actually built it. Tell us about that day.
Well, it took us a year and a half to build the Ringwood pump station and this Cleo Springs pump station. And after we were finished, I went looking for a job, and the City of Enid Water Department hired me, and so then I started actually running this pump station. So
that's good information to know, that if you're looking for an opportunity at the City of Enid, if you have any expertise or building a pump station, That would qualify you for the city of Enid.
Yes, it would.
So tell us a little bit more. We've got this huge pipe, Bruce, and I call this the enclosed swimming pool. That's the reservoir or the clear well.
Clear well.
Okay.
Tank.
Tell us a little bit just how this all works.
All your water wells in the well field pump directly into this tank. It's 1.5 million gallons of water. It's 18 foot deep. And then we have pumps inside the building that we control to pump water out and send it to Enid.
Are there times, excuse me, Bruce, are there times that the water is just in holding pattern here, or is it always moving?
No, when this well field is off, the pumps will be off.
Okay.
So the tank may be, mostly full, and it'll sit there maybe a week at a time, especially in the winter months when we don't use as much water in town. But in the summertime, this pump station runs continuous.
This has really been very educational for me today, of just trying to get a better understanding how water gets all the way to our, as I keep saying, our bathtub. So we have a pump station here, one at Ames, and then a Ringwood as well. Yeah. Now, say it's going to a larger pipe along 412. Do we get to another pump station in the city limits of Enid, or does it go directly to, say, a water tower?
No, this water goes to a treatment plant on the west edge of Enid. We chlorinate and put fluoride in the water. And then from there, we pump it into the distribution system. And that's demand pumps. The pumps are sitting there looking for a certain pressure. And so as you use water at your house, that pump will meet the demand. And when everybody, middle of the night, it's not running nearly as hard as it is in the morning when people are getting up, taking showers. So we control the pumping rate out of this plant, but the usage in the town of Enid controls the pumping rate out of the clear wells there.
Well, Public Works Director Jim McClain said he was always impressed with the work of Bruce Boyd, and I think I'm impressed as well, because of, the gentleman here is the one that was of many employees at the time that were building this facility, and it looks solid as a rock today. 30-some years later, that's impressive work. So again, Bruce, thank you for your work and what you do for the city of Enid, and for getting it all started by building this big enclosed swimming pool.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I look forward to being with you again, discussing a topic that impacts all of us here in Enid. If you have a question and would like to address it, please send an email to thefuture@enid.org. For the City of Enid, I'm Steve Kime. Make it a great day.